Hello, everyone, and welcome to Eye on Chicago. I'm Antonio Mora. Tonight, after his big success in Friends, David Schwimmer takes on a more intimate project. He sits down to talk about his new film, Dwayne Hopwood. Also coming up, Palaces of Unparalleled Beauty. We will explore the history of Chicago's grand hotels. And forget the workshop where Santa makes his toys. Wait until you see the workshop where one local woman makes Santas. Chicago has many great hotels, but only a few are truly grand. A new book puts the spotlight on 3 eye-popping examples. Author Robert Allegrini calls them the People's Palaces. CBS 2's Vince Girasoli has the story.
They are magnificent spaces from another era, where glorious architecture is accented by glistening chandeliers, intricate stairways, and rich furnishings, the hallmarks of a grand hotel.
The hotel with classical, majestic, awe-inspiring architecture, rich tapestries and furnishings, gilded, carved furnishings, and a history that makes it synonymous with the history where it's located.
Chicago has 3 grand hotels still up and running and serving guests in splendor since at least the early part of the last century. They are the Palmer House, the Drake, and the Hilton Chicago. In his new book, Chicago's Grand Hotels, author Robert Allegrini not only spotlights their treasures, but chronicles their role in the city's history.
Perhaps history is the most important factor in a true grand hotel.
The Palmer House, greeting guests on State Street today, has been in operation since 1871, but its current French-inspired spaces date back to 1927. It was originally built by dry goods merchant and speculator Potter Palmer. However, it's the signature of his wife, Bertha Palmer, that we see throughout the hotel. She was an ardent lover of all things French. It's evident in the red lacquer room, designed to look like a ballroom in a king's palace. Here, even the crystals are red. The French influence is even more present in the impressive main lobby.
So this is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most gorgeous lobbies.
It is. In fact, the recently published Encyclopedia of Chicago labeled it the grandest lobby in the entire country. Now, they may be a little bit partial, but I think when you see this lobby, you'd have to agree it's truly very special and very unique.
I can remember when we'd go to dances in college here. You really felt like you were somewhere.
You felt like you were in a palace in Europe, and that was the intent.
Accented by unique chandeliers and palatial architectural details, the crowning glory is the brilliant overhead ceiling.
Lido Lippi, who is an Italian art restorer who had worked on the Sistine Chapel restoration, came and painstakingly on scaffolding restored all of this to its current magnificence.
Looking over the guests below, scenes from Greek mythology that collectively cover an area that's roughly the size of a basketball court. By the 1930s, hotelier Conrad Hilton purchased the Palmer House, ushering in the heyday of the famous Empire Room, which for 4 decades was Chicago's premier supper club. The Abbott dancers kicked up their heels here, with the likes of Jimmy Durante and Frank Sinatra performing center stage.
This is actually the room where Liberace was discovered. He was discovered playing the piano here during the cocktail reception prior to the show.
Here's an interesting story about the gorgeous gilded and crystal chandeliers in the Empire Room of the Palmer House. Back in the 1950s, during a renovation, they were sold for $400 each. Well, when Conrad Hilton found out about it, he was infuriated and insisted that they be repurchased. Well, they were, but this time, the price tag was $4,000 each.
Roughly a mile north, the Drake Hotel, the palace of brothers John and Tracy Drake, second-generation hoteliers. When they opened the hotel that bears their name in 1920, Upper Michigan Avenue was a remote corner of the city. Close to Oak Street Beach, the Drake was built as the nation's first urban resort. Its elegant spaces over the years have made the Drake the favorite Chicago hotel of visiting British royalty. A $185 million renovation in 1985 restored the Chicago Hilton to its original glory. But when it opened in 1927, it was the Stevens Hotel. Ernest Stevens knew the convergence of railways in Chicago made the city the nation's prime spot for conventions. When its 3,000 rooms and breathtaking grand staircases first welcomed guests, the Stevens was the world's largest hotel.
The world had never seen anything quite like this hotel when it was opened. It was such an important hotel opening that the Vice President of the United States came to be the first registered guest of this hotel. So you can tell that it was really special, not only to the city, but to the entire country.
Over the years, the hotel was also acquired by Conrad Hilton, and its name changed several times. During the Second World War, the hotel was taken over by the military to house thousands of soldiers for training. In 1968, military police protected the entrance to the hotel from protesters at the notorious Democratic Convention. Outshining those memories today is the breathtaking Grand Ballroom. Inspired by Versailles, it is completely free of visible structural pillars.
And still a busy space to this day.
It is, as you can see today. We had a prayer breakfast this morning. We have the Irish Fellowship Club coming in for lunch. It's still, without a doubt, the most popular ballroom in the city.
Grand hotels, says Allegrini, are on the endangered species list. Costing millions at the time of their original construction, their price tags would be prohibitive today. But in Chicago, 3 palaces from a bygone era stand ready to welcome guests from across the world or down the block.
And I think all 3 of these hotels really represent a collective formal living room for Chicago. They're really the people's palaces.
For Eye on Chicago, I'm Vince Girasoli.
Thanks to Vince Girasoli. Once again, Robert Allegrini's book is Chicago's Grand Hotels, the Palmer House, the Drake, and the Hilton Chicago.